What is up, everyone? I've been making videos about college football on TikTok for some time now, and I want to try some on YouTube. I enjoy the idea of longer form content because at the end of the day, I love talking college football. And when you do it on TikTok, it can get really tacky and you have to have good punchlines and things like that to get views. Otherwise, people just scroll past. On YouTube, you can talk just more college football. With that being said, one of the teams that a lot of people have asked me to take a really deep dive on is Kentucky. And which it makes sense. They have a new coach in Will Stein. He came over from Oregon. He's had tons of success at Oregon. He was also at UTSA where he had success, but he's also never been a head coach. So that is a very intriguing storyline in itself. They also have a pretty much new team in terms of how much they went out in the transfer portal, how much they lost, but almost how much they also got. The over-under right now for win total is sitting at about 4.5, depending on where you look. I think that's a very competitive line. But first, let's look at the schedule. They play Alabama, Texas A&M at the beginning of the year. Those will be two teams that both have college football playoff hopes. I think Alabama will be better than Texas A&M, but they also play Texas A&M on the road, and it is very difficult to go to College Station and get a win. When you look farther down on that schedule, they play at South Carolina. South Carolina team that I'm pretty high on. A lot of people aren't, but no matter what, Williams-Brice is a really tough place to go in a football game. LSU, they also play. And then Oklahoma. And then Tennessee. And you see how this schedule will be very difficult for them to get games that they can win. At the end of the year, they play Missouri and Louisville. Two, once again, very difficult games. So, how do we think that they'll do? Well, first, when you're looking at how much success Kentucky might be able to have, first thing it comes down to is coaching. Will Stein has to be a good head coach. And a lot of people just feel like he'll walk in and win a ton of football games, but here's my worry. He's never been a head coach before. Yes, he's been a very successful offensive coordinator at UTSA and a very successful offensive coordinator at Oregon, but a head coach is a whole nother battle, especially when you look at a program like Kentucky. That has some glaring holes, and they will not be a talent advantage in many games on that schedule that we just talked about. But with that being said, long term, I do really like Will Stein, and I really like him because he's from the Kentucky area. Yes, I know he went to Louisville. Who cares? He's at Kentucky now. And I feel like he will be very grassroots in the community, which will matter. But in terms of how much talent do they have next season and how good of a coach is he, I do have some absolute question marks on whether they'll truly be able to perform. But let's look at the guys who are supposed to help Will Stein out and bring in a huge infusion of talent that Kentucky oh so desperately needed. And up front, I think they get a lot better. Colton Price and Lance Hurd both played large amounts of games at Tennessee and Baylor, respectively. Those are not just transfer guys who didn't pan out at their Power 4 school. Now they ended up at Kentucky. They're guys that can truly play. But, and here's a big but, when you look at the rest, when you look at Barnes, when you look at the guy from Ohio State, and when you look at Kenny Minchie, those are guys who haven't played and who have not had a ton of success at the Power 4. But now they're at Kentucky, and they're coming in with massive, massive expectation. And my biggest worry is that they're very inexperienced. And when you go back to looking at that schedule, Alabama, Texas A&M, LSU, Oklahoma, those are all teams that are very talented as well, but also have the experience. And experience is key, especially when you look at what teams were great a year ago. Indiana. Well, why was Indiana so good? Because they went and bought 24-year-olds that had already proven that they were really good at football. And Kentucky did do that, especially with some of their G6 guys. But in terms of Power 4 proven talent, besides the guys that they got up front, they do lack in that category a little bit. But then I look at some of the 3-stars that they've gotten from other Power 4 schools. And I don't know how many of them they will hit on. The good news, they got a lot of them. But CJ Baxter and Nick Anderson are the two guys that just pop off the page. When they're on the field, they are remarkably good football players. When they are playing, they are one-of-one talents that pretty much can go up against any cornerback or any run defense in the country and have success. Problem is, neither of them can stay on the field. And that's my biggest worry about Kentucky. One, their Power 4 transfers that haven't played at the Power 4 level yet because they were sitting on depth charts elsewhere. And two, the guys who have tons of injury trouble. So how does Kentucky's season go? Well, in one way, they can hit on most of these transfer guys, the guys who come in who are injury prone, stay healthy, and everything goes absolutely amazingly well. That's one way. Way two is that this team gets hurt, they lack depth, and Will Stein shows that he's a first-year head coach. And that's also a very big challenge that this team could run into. And that's why I say I like Will Stein long-term so much more, because of when he can, get too deep back in a depth chart, I like and I trust this team a lot more. But for right now, I think they will at least have some problems with depth this year. And some guys just won't pan out from the portal. The good news is that they get 29 of them. So for final thoughts, one, I do like most of the things they did in the transfer portal. New infusion of talent was needed at Kentucky. Two, Will Stein long-term will be a good solution. It's next year that I'm a little worried about. And three, that schedule is absolutely a gauntlet. And that's going to be the biggest test. Will Stein, if he goes 6-6, if they win 5 games, this is not a bad year at Kentucky by any means. My biggest worry is what happens if the wheels do fall off? What happens if you lose the locker room? What happens if injuries happen? And then you might be sitting there with 3 or 4 wins. So right now, I'm leaning towards that they're probably a 5-7 football team. We'll have complete record predictions later on in this channel. I plan on starting that like mid-June. So spring ball is at least done for pretty much every program. But if you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe, leave a like, and let me know what I can improve on or what you disagree with about this list.